through these things. I want you to listen to Louis Farrakhan on February 25, 2018. There's a reason for this. Many of you know what it is. But you haven't heard me talk about it yet. There's Louis Farrakhan at the Savior's Day address, February 25, 2018, just a few weeks ago. Cut 14, go.
The FBI has been the worst enemy of black advancement. Can you prove that, Farrakhan? See, the Jews have control over those agencies of government. This enemy, he's so angry with Farrakhan that now if you like me, you have to either hide it, especially if you want advancement in the white man's world. Now, if you go to work tomorrow and Jews are your boss, don't tell them where you've been.
Mm-hmm. So he's a Jew hater, an anti-Semite. He said more. Cut 15, go.
I don't care what they put on me. The government is my enemy. The powerful Jews are my enemy. And scared to death Negroes are my enemy. And weak Muslims and hypocrites are my enemy. But here I stand.
And more. Cut 16, go.
So don't even weep if you hear that I'm dead. Say that boy did his job. The world will never be the same again. White folks are going down. And Satan is going down. And Farrakhan, by God's grace, has pulled the cover off of that satanic Jew. And I'm here to say, your time is up. Your world is through. And the good Jews, you better separate from these satanic Jews lest they take you down to hell with them, because that's where they're headed.
Now this Hitlerian, has he been denounced by prominent Democrats? Has he been denounced by prominent Democrats? Has he been denounced repeatedly by members of the media on MSNBC and CNN? I'm not talking about here and there. This man is poison. He's poison. Yet Democrat candidates campaign with him. Democrats break bread with him. There's a piece in The Federalist by Warren Henry. He says, what would the establishment media reaction be if tens of members of Congress met with one of America's most notorious racists and anti-Semites and refused to denounce him? Or if the leaders of one of America's hottest social movements embraced him? If the bigoted question is Nation of Islam leader Louis Farrakhan, who's blamed Jews for the 9/11 attacks, said white people deserve to die, and praised Adolf Hitler, the answer seems to be not much. At least not when those embracing him are Democrats and progressives. The genesis of this story was the revelation that a photograph of then Illinois Senator Barack Obama and Farrakhan at a 2005 Congressional Black Caucus meeting was suppressed for years for political reasons. Obama had previously criticized Farrakhan's racist and anti-Semitic statements. Moreover, during his presidential run, Obama found himself on the hot seat by both embracing his own minister, the controversial Reverend Jeremiah Wright, and disowning him a month later. And unsurprisingly, the media applauded Obama both times. After the photo surfaced, conservative media, particularly the Daily Caller, began re-examining the ties between Farrakhan and the Congressional Black Caucus. In an interview with Peter Hassan, Representative Danny Davis defended Farrakhan as an outstanding human being, Davis being from Chicago, Illinois. The Anti-Defamation League, which is going increasingly soft on elected Democrats, that's because it's now run by an Obama sycophant, initially responded by claiming Davis had told them his remarks praising Farrakhan were taken out of context. But when Davis then confirmed his original opinion of Farrakhan and said he was unsure why the ADL believed he was misquoted, the ADL was forced to say they were deeply disappointed with Davis. Hassan also contacted the offices of 20 other Congressional Black Caucus members who attended the 2005 meeting. Not one of them denounced Farrakhan. Now, if you thought big media would be interested in the story of public officials cozying up to a virulent bigot, you'd be mistaken. Journalists rationalized their dismissal of the story by saying that the Congressional Black Caucus members, like Davis, are basically invulnerable in their congressional district. One big flaw in this defense is that House incumbents are generally invulnerable in their districts. Perhaps the media should stop covering Congress. Another big flaw in this defense is that the progressives' affinity for Farrakhan extends beyond Congress. At least 3 leaders of the so-called Women's March have been on friendly terms with Farrakhan and the Nation of Islam. March co-president Tamika Mallory called Farrakhan definitely GOAT, definitely GOAT, while Carmen Perez shared a photo of herself holding hands with him in videos of the minister speaking truth to power. March co-chair Linda Sarsour, who appeared at a 2015 Nation of Islam event, has publicly claimed that anti-Semitism is different than anti-black racism or Islamophobia because it's not systemic, something that will come as news to Jews throughout recorded history. And it goes on. He says, as I write this, outside conservative media and Jewish media, the Forward, Tablet, Jewish Telegraph Agency, Eretz, the Daily Beast, the New York Daily News, Newsday, Yahoo, they've been exceptions to the general rule. But at this moment, neither the New York Times nor the Washington Post have found it news fit to print, though both covered a surreal Saturday Night Live sketch that had Farrakhan phoning into Fox and Friends. The left in this country has been growing increasingly anti-Semitic. Let's just call it what it is. They've embraced the more radical elements of the Palestinians and the Arabs generally. They despise the state of Israel. The Democrat Party is a safe place for people like Keith Ellison, who worked for Farrakhan's organization, who called himself Keith X. And he's done the best he can to cover up his past, and I've done the best I can to uncover it. He was almost voted the chairman of the Democrat National Committee. He had to settle for co-chairman. He's the co-chairman of the Democrat National Committee. These members of the Congressional Black Caucus proudly celebrate Farrakhan. Proudly. Has Mr. Perez, the chairman of the DNC, denounced Mr. Farrakhan? Has Jose Ramos denounced Mr. Farrakhan? Has Luis Gutierrez denounced Mr. Farrakhan? Has Kamala Harris denounced Mr. Farrakhan? Has Bernie Sanders denounced Mr. Farrakhan? Has Elizabeth Warren denounced Mr. Farrakhan? Was there a press conference among the Democrats on Capitol Hill who rely on Mr. Farrakhan in many districts in this country, denouncing Mr. Farrakhan? Now, they like to call President Trump a racist, which he is not. Oddly, they call him an anti-Semite. The president, the first, who announced that Jerusalem is, in fact, the capital of Israel. who is in fact moving the American embassy to Jerusalem, who in fact has a daughter who's an Orthodox Jew and a son-in-law who's an Orthodox Jew and Jewish grandchildren. No evidence whatsoever that he's a racist or an anti-Semite. Lots and lots of evidence when it comes to Farrakhan. And yet the same people in Congress who day in and day out like to call people racist because they're conservatives or they don't agree with their radical agenda, the same media, the fraudulent media that like to advance and exploit that notion about conservatives and Republicans and the president, are really quite tame when it comes to Mr. Farrakhan. They're really quite tame, aren't they? I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.